Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining part 2 of our 4-part Transformation 2015 webinar series today. My name is Sarah Pastro, and I'm here with AIS Media Senior Content Strategist Melanie Merrifield, who will be hosting this exciting webinar titled The New Content Marketing Blueprint. Here at AIS Media, we focus on providing lift to amplify brand awareness, customer engagement, and conversion rates, all the while delivering meaningful and measurable results. We have 2 locations, Atlanta and Dallas. In Atlanta, we focus on digital marketing strategy, user experience design, lead generation and online sales programs, digital marketing, and conversion rate optimization. In Dallas, we focus on CRM, marketing automation, sales process alignment, content journey mapping, and lead management. Over the years, our creative team has been recognized with dozens of awards. Our content, such as what we're about to share with you today, has been featured on and in the global press and news, including Fox Business, CNBC, The Wall Street Journal, CNN Radio, and many others. We've worked with hundreds of clients, ranging from leading companies to top brands to Fortune 500 corporations. Throughout this series, we're going to be covering a variety of digital marketing topics, and today we're going to be focusing on the new content marketing blueprint to help you prepare for 2015. Here's your presenter, Melanie Merrifield.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for what I feel is probably the most exciting topic in marketing right now, and that is content marketing. I am a little biased about that, but I wanted to just take a step back for just a second, and let's look at the big picture, the marketing landscape against which we're going to be looking at content marketing. Before we get going with this slide, let me just mention a few things. We're going to have some time at the end of today's presentation for questions and answers. So as we're going through our presentation, if you have questions for us, please feel free to send those in, and we'll have time for just a few of those at the end. Also wanted to mention that we're going to be doing some live tweets throughout the presentation, so please, follow us on Twitter, and let's help get the word out about content marketing. So anyway, let's take a step back and look at the major content shifts that we're going to be looking for in 2015. First of all, we're going to see this is not a completely new trend, but we're going to see content continuing to blend with social media. In that content that's amplified and shared through social is going to become even more important in 2015. Advertising is going to continue to be a little less blatant in the months ahead. We're going to see more and more of this native advertising, which is in previous decades, you heard that referred to as advertorial, and it was sometimes flagged as such. But it's going to be a little harder to see the difference between native advertising and true editorial in 2015. Content marketers, of course, are going to continue to see higher search rankings because Google likes fresh content. We're going to see a return of guest blogging. That is kind of a trend that had fallen out of favor about 2 years ago, I guess, but that's going to come back. And we're going to see budgets reach new record highs. And of course, content marketers are going to also become more sophisticated email marketers. They're going to leverage a lot of the learning from content and use that in their email programs. Roughly 55% of B2B marketers do plan to increase their content marketing budgets in 2015, and that's great news for all of us who are interested in this discipline. As you can see from this chart provided here from Content Marketing Institute, roughly 46% plan to increase their spending over the next 12 months in B2B marketing. B2B marketers do have one challenge, and that is many do not have a documented content marketing strategy. Here you can see 48% say they have a strategy, but they haven't yet taken the time to document it and write that down. We see that as a real opportunity for us. So 48% have a strategy, but it's not documented. That's something we think we can help with. Organizationally, the goals for B2C content marketing, a little bit different from business to business. Most of the business to consumer marketers view content marketing as a good tool for customer retention. A lot of the loyalty programs consider that content marketing, and they see content marketing as a great way to engage with those consumers. They're using it to build brand awareness and help support sales, but not look for a specific sale. Now, all of this content marketing is occurring against a backdrop that is heavily influenced by the rise of mobile internet use. As you can see here on this chart, in 2013, mobile internet use actually outpaced desktop use. And this has huge implications for all of us in content marketing, because as these screens continue to shrink, we're going to have to become more and more focused with our messaging in order to catch our prospects' attention. The reality is today people are browsing with a wide variety of devices. They're using smartphones and tablets, laptops and desktops, and you don't know what type of device people are going to be accessing your content through. So it's very important to make those responsive decisions, use the responsive design, and make sure that they don't step into a subpar experience just because they happen to encounter your content with the wrong device. Now, the majority of media consumption today is, in fact, screen-based. Some estimates say as much as 90% of all media interactions are screen-based, meaning, these are images that are coming at you on your TV, on your computer, the tablet, or the cell phone. And about 38% of those impressions are actually happening on smartphones. So that's a growing segment of this whole rainbow. Consumers are moving between these multiple devices to accomplish their goals. 90% of people use multiple screens sequentially. So they might start browsing for a purchase on a cell phone and then move to a desktop to actually complete the transaction. Many people will browse the internet on one device and then switch over to complete the purchase. They might actually defer something like managing finances to their desktop for security reasons and other things. Same thing for travel arrangements. But all these activities can happen on different devices. Television no longer commands the full attention of its viewers, meaning many times people now are watching programs while they're simultaneously surfing the net on a laptop next to them on the sofa, or they've got that smartphone out texting with a buddy. They're really sort of interacting with multiple screens at one time. And actually, I saw in an article last week there's a new verb for this called meshing, meaning people are interacting with the multiple screens. So meshing is an important factor. Online shopping, of course, is a multiple screen activity for many people. Like I mentioned before, they might start out browsing for a purchase on the cell phone and then move to the desktop or the laptop to actually complete that purchase. But the truth is that smartphones' accessibility is one of the things fueling this insatiable appetite for spontaneous purchase. They've always got the smartphone nearby, and they can always reach for it and just finish a purchase right there. So it's really playing with the customer expectation for ease and how they're able to manipulate it on the online sites. That means 95%, even in B2B, 95% of those B2B buyers are preferring shorter content format. This is because people are essentially the same folks at work as they are off the clock. They don't just turn into totally different people as they walk through the halls of their businesses. So this expectation for quicker content, scannable screens, instant gratification, all of that is carrying over into the workday expectation as well. And we can be prepared for screens to get even smaller. We're looking for new technology like the Apple iWatch that's coming out soon. And in fact, these small screens and wearable electronics were the very biggest news at this year's CES show. So we can count on technology continuing to evolve, and for people to just step up to every innovation as it's served up. So all that gives us a good background against which we're going to look at the key components of a good content marketing blueprint. And just for starters, we're going to start off with number one. It's important to have some clearly defined goals and metrics by which you're going to evaluate the success of what you're setting out to do. This sounds so simple, but we see it time and time again. People forget to set those parameters. The second is you want a really clear understanding of who your audience is. And this means developing buyer personas, a really well thought through look at our profile, at who's going to be shopping for your product or service ultimately, so you can use that information to inform your content program as you develop it. Number three, you also want to fully understand what that buyer journey is. If you can put yourself in the shoes of that buyer and sort of mentally walk that process with them, it'll help you understand what you might fully appreciate as content, and therefore you can play that back and leverage that learning. Number four, a messaging guide is a really key part of content marketing, and this is basically sort of a branding guide, if you will, that explains what the key ideas are you're trying to communicate, and how you're going to communicate those. So guide rails for things like tone and voice, punctuation, diction, what style guide you're going to follow. All of that can be contained in that messaging guide. Number five, this is a big one, the content calendar. And this is basically how often you feel you're going to go out with this new content. Usually what happens is people are very ambitious with this, and they think they're going to go out, multiple times a week, and that's great if you're able to mobilize and pull that off, but sometimes it takes a little push and pull within an organization before you can really publish all that frequently. So content calendar is key. And then number six, this sort of plays into number five, the content amplification is a really big idea. And basically what that means is make sure that you're getting all the mileage you can out of the content that you produce. In other words, you might take one piece and flesh it out through a lot of different channels and build the audience for your information and really minimize the amount of time you spend creating new content. You can just take the same piece and express it to different audiences. So amplification is key. So let's start first with goals and metrics. And basically what you want to define early on is what your primary content marketing goals truly are, so you'll know what you're setting about doing. For business-to-consumer content marketing success, many brands are looking to first and foremost build website traffic. About 62% they state that as a goal. Others are looking for sales, about 54%. Higher conversion rates where people can actually buy product online, 39%. So you can see this chart. Chart shows how people feel about business-to-consumer content marketing. This chart shows a little bit different story. These are the metrics for business-to-business content marketing success. Again, they want to see strong website traffic and higher conversion rate. But ultimately, you can see from this, people are looking for a strong return on this investment. They're looking for strong sales lead quality. They want to move those buyers a little bit farther down the funnel. They don't have to actually close a sale, but they want to see some interaction that means they're going to be a little bit more likely to buy down the road. So the common goals here, first and foremost, brand awareness, of course, is key for everybody. And there are a lot of great ways to measure this. Simply by taking a poll of your web traffic, the number of views you get, downloads, your social chatter, all of those things are great for measuring brand awareness. You can also measure and gather the analytics on engagement, visitor blog comments, how often things are liked and shared, or pinned if you're on Pinterest. All of those things will show that people are engaging with your content. They're not just reading it or watching it, they're actually taking an extra step, so they're engaging with you. That's a good thing. Lead generation could be something as simple as filling out a form on your website or subscribing to your email opt-in list. Sales, that's something that everyone wants to see in business, right? That's definitely a very clear indicator that people are interested and appreciate what you've got to offer. Online sales can be a clear indicator. But also, you may see, after you do some successful content marketing, you may see some lift in the offline sales as well, just because you're affecting the marketplace and you're seeing the payoff somewhere else. Customer retention stands to be improved greatly with content marketing. Basically, the percentage content consumed by your existing customers, that can go up, of course, and content can also help you keep the current customers that you have, keeping them well informed of new product development, new innovations that you have to share, and that can down the road keep them with you a little bit longer, which, as we all know, is a very profitable way to keep a company strong. And clearly you can upsell to your existing customer base through content marketing. Now, in addition to analytics, something as simple as a website heat map can be a great indicator to show how an audience is engaging with your content. Here, our baby did not actually get sick. This is a heat map that just shows where people are engaging on this page. But you know, it sounds simple, but this kind of measure can keep your content accountable. Now, you may have seen a customer funnel before, but this is a little bit different. Just because where the typical funnel has at the very bottom a purchase, you know, we've extended this one to say that beyond a purchase, we also are trying to move our customers into being more loyal to our company or our brand, and then to move beyond that to become advocates for the brand and activate through social media channels. So, but really I'm sharing this just to say what you want to do is to share content with your audience that's going to help them at each stage of this process. So as you're brainstorming story ideas or video ideas, this is a great way to help do that. At every point along the way, you want to ask yourself, how well does our content marketing plan support our business goals? You know, if your goal is to raise awareness and build your brand, you know, that's sort of one strategy. If your goal is to have fewer but more qualified leads, you might go out with a little bit different content story. So you just want to make sure that your content strategy and your general marketing strategy are in alignment. And that leads me to another really key part of this plan, and that is developing buyer personas. I'm going to share with you two different sets of personas. The first is one for business-to-consumer model, and then one that's a B2B example. But first and foremost, let's take a look at what a consumer persona actually is, a customer persona. The first is you want to have a good understanding of the demographics and what service line each individual would be interested in for your business. You want to sort of spend some time getting to know their lifestyle, their education level, and their needs and interests, just so you can fully understand the challenges they face every day and the problems they may be having that your company could assist them with. Another thing to keep in mind is their technology involvement. Obviously, you don't want to talk over the heads of your audience, and you don't want to talk down to people. You want to sort of meet them where they are. So the better you know these personas, the better you can address them in content. This is the same type of brainstorming that all publications go through. Any magazine you see on the newsstand, this type of dialogue and consideration is the backbone of the publication industry, really. So first, let's take a look in this business-to-consumer example. Let's take a look at perhaps a cosmetic surgery practice is going to serve the general public, but really and truly they come down and they have three different types of patients who tend to come to the practice. The first would be this group that we're calling Forever Young. This is probably a 35-year-old adult who's really committed to looking her very best. And she sees cosmetic procedures as sort of a necessary part of aging, right? So she's going to go through whatever it takes to keep herself looking young. She's really not as concerned about the price because she really sees sort of body maintenance as a necessary part of aging. She's got the money to take care of herself. Another audience that might be coming to the practice would be a group called My Best Self. And this archetype would be someone who perhaps has gone through a medical challenge of some kind. Maybe she's had reconstructive surgery and she wasn't satisfied with that. So she's probably a little bit more emotionally fragile because she's been through a lot and she needs a lot of reassurance and nurturing. She's really looking just to get herself back to the way she was before she had her medical challenge. So, you know, medical reconstruction or whatever. So for her, she's really looking for a practice that will encourage and support her. And obviously you would speak to this audience a little bit differently than you would the forever young audience. Third persona would be someone we call finally ready. And this might be an individual who's had a lifelong challenge with some part of his physique. Maybe there's something that he just doesn't really feel comfortable with. So, and he's always wanted to address it. So this audience is, you know, would be very receptive, likely, to price incentives and that kind of thing because they've always wanted to do something, but maybe they've just got to find the right time to do it. So this audience, you know, would be very receptive to price incentives, special offers, that kind of thing. So you could see all three of those. You talk to those a little bit differently. Now let's move on to our business-to-business persona example. For this, we're going to take a look at a company that perhaps sells sales management software of some type, and how that would be received by different stakeholders within an organization. First and foremost, although this person would not likely be the one driving the decision, they would be the one most directly responsible for supporting it. So it might be the CIO and his team, and I'm calling him Skeptic 3.0 because he doesn't really stand to gain a lot by the company stepping into this technology relationship, but he is going to inherit all the headaches. So he's probably, you know, a little bit skeptical. He's looking for all the reasons that this could mean trouble for his team. And he's keeping both eyes open as they move forward. He's going to be the gatekeeper who could say, no at the 11th hour and kind of squash the whole deal. So he's an important stakeholder. And then you've got your chief marketing officer who probably is also going to weigh in. She's not as directly interested in the very question about whether or not to move forward with the purchase, but her team would likely be the one executing and using the material down the road. So she could really prove key to the purchase as well. And then the big driver of this decision is likely to be somebody like the VP of Sales. We're calling him Let's Do This. But you know, perhaps this guy leads a 200-member team. They might be spread out all across the country, and he's really looking for new ways to nurture leads and wants some surefire tools available to his team so that they can move more, move more sales along and close more business. So he's going to be very enthusiastic. He's got a very high interest level, and he's going to be maybe the driver for the purchase. So all of these people would have a different ear to the content that you want to push out to them. We're going to come back to our sales funnel now, and let's just look at where all these different stakeholders might weigh in a B2B buying decision. At the very top of the funnel, you'd have that VP of Sales we just took a look at. He might be the one who becomes first aware of the need for a new system. He's likely to trigger the exploration of different suppliers. He might lead a search team, and he probably very early on would, clue the CIO that, hey, change is coming. This is really something the sales team wants. So the CIO might get involved there in the middle where they're considering different vendors. And at some point along there in the middle, the Chief Marketing Officer is likely to also join the conversation because, like I said, she and her team will probably be the ones who are most likely to use the tool down the road. So she's going to weigh in for things on like conversion and purchase, and then, of course, moving on through loyalty, and then hopefully they're going to have such a great experience, they're going to tell other sales associates that they know, other companies, and become an advocate for your product. So as part of this exercise, what you'd want to do is identify the type of content each of those personas values the most and try to provide that to them. The first and foremost, of course, you can educate. And importantly, not just educate on your products and services, but you can take a broader, more authoritative position and help educate on your category at large, on industry news, trends within your industry. You can really position your company as a thought leader by sharing all this with your prospects. You can help inform and empower them. Secondly, you can be very helpful. You can offer special tips. This could be anything from, shortcuts on how to make the right decision to, again, this doesn't have to be just about your company and your products. It's really more about your target audience. It's about those personas and the problems they face, not just about your products. But whatever you're going to go out with, you want to help make things easier for them. You want to share your special expertise with them. And this could be something as simple as, a situational type column perhaps that you go out with that shows, hey, customer X encountered this type of situation and this is how they were able to problem solve. Maybe the solution is your product and service. Maybe it's something else in your industry, but the fact that you're going to them with this specialized expertise helps build your value in their eyes. And lastly, you want to always keep your material as entertaining as possible. I mean, obviously not every topic is going to be full of jokes and lighthearted humor, but wherever possible, you want to try to humanize that business world because people are just still people. They all read, with one eye for entertainment as well as information. Understanding the buyer journey is going to take you a long way as you move into content marketing. For this section, you've got to keep it in mind that your goal is to remember that you want to deliver the right content in the right format to that right audience at the right time. It's a pretty tall order, but that's always our goal here. Now, basically what that means is as your prospect moves through their buying decision, you want to sort of support each step of that process. Moving across the top here, you see a transition from first you become aware of the need for a decision, need for a purchase, into consideration where you're perhaps entertaining different ways to solve a problem within a business, and then finally a more narrowing decision into a decision over there on the right. In the awareness stage, you probably want very high-level information. Maybe things like infographics would come into play here, photographs, videos. This is part of our AIS methodology. This is the way we look at content development. But so you would have those awareness pieces over on the left in engagement devices, and then as you move over to the right, where you've got a little bit more consideration, you're going to want a little bit more information. So longer format pieces, maybe an e-book would be appropriate there, or demonstration video where you can really showcase the strengths of your particular product. And then moving over to the right where you can really maybe bring your product in line with other offerings in the category with things like analyst reports or calculators, trend reports, anything you can do to help narrow that buying decision. So this backdrop is a great way to help brainstorm different content pieces that you might want to produce. And again, remember, it's not always going to be 100% about the product. It's going to be about that persona. So things like how-to guides and tips and things that save them time and energy are really going to pay off. Basically what you want to do is identify the gap between the content you have and the content you need. And I love this image because it's really so daunting. But you know, for most companies, after we perform a content gap analysis, there is a big leap between where they are and where they want to be. But you can get there from here. It's just you just have to be systematic about it and follow that written content strategy. Another important tool for you is going to be your messaging guide. And this basically is going to be your brand's or your organization's Bible for on-brand content. It's sort of a all-in-one cliff notes to the way you want to talk to your audience and the key ideas that you want to communicate. Your messaging guide would include something like the voice, which is basically what we say. And again, like we talked about a minute ago, you can explain and educate, encourage, inspire, whatever those particular verbs are that you feel you want to go out with, that this is where you would articulate those. And you want to include your key brand values in this book as well, so that you can always reinforce that brand positioning and make sure you're bringing to life the brand promise. The tone of your communications is also going to be really important. And this is, you know, how we say what we say. It's the personality of that B2B brand. And this might also include some do's and don'ts, things that you really don't want to ever do. A good example of a messaging guide might be, you're probably all very familiar with the Staples Easy button. But I love that example because that simple button that says, you know, you push the button and it says that was easy, that really encapsulates the very casual, very approachable brand values of Staples. They want to be accessible to the business customer. And that easy button really does a great job of that. Federal Express, another great brand, has a different tone. They're a much more authoritative position because they're selling confidence, right? When you go with FedEx, when you know it's got to get there, when your job is on the line, when you really need something accomplished, you can trust FedEx to make it happen. They've got a much more didactic brand tone when it absolutely, positively has to get there overnight. But I'm just including those just to show those are the types of things that you can summarize in your messaging guide. You might also want to include simple things like grammar and mechanics. You know, whether you're going to use the AP style guide as your go-to or Chicago manual style, how you're going to handle capitalization, special terminology for your particular company, and then whether or not sentence fragments are going to be okay. You know, companies make sort of global decisions on those questions. This would be a great place to summarize your personas and make sure everyone who's working with your brand has access to those. And you also want to include your brand standards and graphics, you know, your fonts, your PMS colors, really all the information you can about how to communicate under the umbrella of your company brand. Number 5, the content calendar. This is a really challenging component for many, many companies because they start off very overly enthusiastic and then they soon realize that creating content takes a good bit of time and energy, and sometimes they've overestimated how much they're going to be able to do. But you do want to go ahead and create a content schedule and keep that content fresh because Google is constantly searching for new content that's recently published. This is going to help your company rank higher in search, which will drive more website traffic, and of course ultimately that's going to mean you've got a lot more leads. Fresh content is going to support all these areas: search, your digital and PR, digital PR and social, marketing automation that costs a whole other webinar, and also email marketing can benefit greatly from successful content marketing. Now, most B2B marketers are going to try to publish new content multiple times a week. You can see that blue area there, or at least weekly, the 17%. But you know, the challenge is just to mobilize as many people as you can to help feed the content machine within your organization. And you want to make sure that, like I said before, you get as much mileage out of every piece of content as you can. So you're going to switch your focus from content creation to amplification. And this means basically playing out that information across all the different formats and through all the different channels available to you. Now this is a quick look at our another piece of AIS proprietary methodology. But basically, here's where we're looking at taking different content formats and moving those through the digital media channels, email, social, and search, and through our vehicles, the website, a marketing automation system, if you're using one, and of course your customer relationship marketing system, if you've got one. And for all of those pieces, you want to always pay attention to analytics and reporting so that you know what's working, what's resonating, and you can use more of that type of material and back away from pieces that aren't really striking home runs with your audience. B2B marketers use on average about 13 different content marketing tactics. Here's the breakdown. The number one that they use is social media other than blogs, which I think that's interesting. I think that's kind of a new phenomenon for B2B. And articles on a website, certainly e-newsletters, blogs, case studies. Case studies are a perennial favorite, right? Video is seeing a huge increase in both consumer and B2B use because it's so much less expensive to produce than it used to be. And articles from other websites, you know, just curating content is a great way to get extra mileage out of your team and keep yourself aligned with thought leaders in your industry. Certainly, number 8, there's room for white papers, especially in very technical and complex sales cycles. And you can bring that information to life in webcasts like this one. And of course, infographics, that's a big popular tool that everybody loves in a good infographic, right? Because it's entertaining, which I mentioned earlier. It's entertaining as well as informative. Be sure you repurpose your content as much as you can. Leverage that original content to your fullest extent. This is going to help drive SEO and attract different buyer personas to the various formats, which again is always your goal, right? To sort of get your message out to all your different stakeholders and reinforce your messages. And here's just an example. One 18-page white paper could be repurposed in all these different formats, and you could turn that into a podcast interview segment, maybe get 4 or 5 blog posts out of it. You could probably create several infographics from that, maybe sum it up in an ebook format. You could produce several webinars from it, post a piece on SlideShare, maybe even create a whiteboard video. So you can see, you know, just by taking the time to create that one white paper, you can get a lot of mileage out of that and amplify it across all the different audiences in these formats. So we have just a few key takeaways for today. Number 1, probably the most important thing you can do in 2015 is go ahead and get that written content strategy. Get it down on paper. Get buy-in from your top management so that everybody knows what you're trying to achieve with content marketing. Number 2, pay attention to this mobile-first, multi-screen economy that we find ourselves in. You know, keep those messages telegraphic. Use a lot of visuals. Please use video. Because that's what your audience is looking for. Number 3, keep your content marketing accountable by using a lot of great analytical tools so you can demonstrate return on investment. That's going to be really important as you go up to defend that budget next year with your management team. Number 4, make sure that you get full amplification out of your content marketing by using the technique of taking one piece and playing it out in different formats, so that you get the maximum mileage out of your work. Lastly, I want to wrap up today by offering all of you, our attendees today, a free offer. We'd like to perform for you a content marketing analysis and consultation. This is a $9.99 value, but it's available to you free because you were gracious enough to join us today for our webinar. As part of this offer, we'd like to perform for you a content strategy review. We'd like to perform SEO analysis of your top 3 competitors, give you some content performance analysis, you know, take a look at what you've got and how it's working, and then provide you some expert tips and recommend a few next action steps that you can take to get your marketing off the ground for content. So while you're thinking that over, I did want to close by just saying we're going to be having our next webinar on March the 4th. We'd love for you to all join us. That's for Mobile First Digital Marketing. It'll be at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so just let us know if you can join us for that. And let me check and see if we have time for a couple of questions. We maybe have time for 2 questions. Let's see here. Okay. Sarah, what question do we have?
Okay, here's one. How long does it take to get started with content marketing? What's the process?
That's a good question. Well, first and foremost, getting started is easier than you might think. We've gotten started in this quickest 90 days. Don't tell anybody, but longer is better, obviously, but 90 days is a good ballpark. Our basic process is first to identify the goals, find the stakeholders within an organization, try to interview them and get a sense for what they're looking for. Then we would turn our attention to persona development, make some strategic recommendations, maybe do a gap analysis of the content you've got now, and we could recommend new content that you might want to consider developing. And we'd probably go ahead and develop a messaging guide that's got information on the tone and voice and what the key brand values are that you want to address. The good news is content is kind of a learn-as-you-go discipline, so you don't have to have all the answers up front. You just got to jump in and be willing to pay attention to the analytics and see what's working and what's resonating with your audience.
All right, here's another great one. What are the most common pitfalls of content marketing?
Ooh, okay, the pitfalls of content marketing. I would say, hands down, the first one is not having clear expectations of what the program is going to deliver. Content marketing really is a longer-term strategy, so it does work, it does nurture sales, but in a more indirect way. So I think a lot of times people are a little bit impatient and they want to see that pay out 1 quarter into the program, for instance, and you're unlikely to see that. But that leads us back to the importance of having that written content plan, because if you have a written strategy and everyone's clear on the expectation up front, you're far more likely to have happy executives and have success with your content marketing. I think we actually run out of time, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I say, we are having our next webinar on March the 4th, so we'd love to welcome you back for that. And we are eager to share with you this content marketing analysis and consultation, so please contact us so we can move forward with that. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much.